Welcome to Tsamba kuMwana Wangu. On Tsamba kuMwana Wangu in the year 2026, we're moving with the theme A War Against the War. Hondo, yekurwisa, Hondo, Yangu. And now on this episode, we are going to be talking about the war of loneliness, being surrounded by a lot of people, but still feeling alone. So last week we spoke about the war of trust, how pain can make it difficult to open up and let people into your life. But today, let's get to talk about what often comes after that lack of trust, after not believing in people anymore. And that's loneliness. So it's not just being alone that we are talking about. It's feeling alone, even when people are around you. So yes, there is that instance of being alone because you no longer trust people, you no longer believe in people, and so you are on your own. But sometimes the people are there, they are around you, yet still you feel like you are on your own. Loneliness is a very quiet war. That is so because you can talk to people, you can laugh with people, you can work with people, you can live with people even every day, but still you feel like no one really understands you. And that feeling can be quite a heavy feeling. You see, that is so because as human beings, we are somewhat built for connection. As a human being, you want to be seen, you want your presence to be felt, you want to be heard. As a human being, you want to be understood. But then when trust has been broken, or when life has disappointed us, we start pulling away. And it's not every time that we pull away physically. Sometimes we're there physically, but we pull away emotionally. You see, you become that person who stops sharing from the depths of your heart. You become that person who stops explaining yourself. And sometimes it's because your surroundings are telling you that if you start explaining yourself, then you are the one who is wrong. Whereas there are situations where an explanation is necessary, but then the community has judged you so much that when you start to explain yourself, you will seem that you're trying to cover up for something. And then so you stop explaining yourself. Or maybe you've become that person who has stopped expecting people to understand them. You see, once in a while, we need to be understood. Once in a while, whenever we come across to people, people need to know where we are coming from and where we are trying to get to. But maybe you're that person who has said, I don't care about that anymore. I don't care whether people understand or they don't anymore. You are somewhat living on your own, even when you're around people. So slowly, you start to lose distance with people. Not physically. Physically, you're present, you're there. But you're somewhat distant emotionally. And that kind of loneliness is a very, very painful phase to walk through in life. That absence of real connection, that absence of meaningful interaction with other people. Maybe this is you. Maybe you're part of conversations that people get involved in. But whenever these conversations are happening, you don't feel included. You don't feel like you're part of whatever is going on. Or maybe you're around friends, people that you consider your own, but you don't feel like they really know you. You look around people who are supposed to be close to you. You look around your siblings. You look around your very, very close friends. And every time you tell yourself, none of them really knows you. None of them really understands you. Or maybe you every time and again are strong for other people. You stand up for your siblings, you stand up for your friends, you stand up for your colleagues at work. But then you also feel like no one then returns the favor. No one stands up for you. No one is there for you. So you keep everything to yourself. You keep everything inside. And the more you keep everything inside, the more alone you feel. That is painful. Really painful. And that can make you lose a desire to keep on in life. At times, you start to question your own existence because you lack validation, because you feel unheard, you feel unseen, you feel like a ghost. We all need someone who can notice us. But that feeling of loneliness, even when you're in a crowd, will rip you apart. And as we head towards trying to make an effort to get over that, as we make an effort to try and win this war against loneliness, maybe the first step, like I've always said in countless Tsamba kuMwana Wangu editions, the first step towards any form of healing is acknowledgement. Acknowledging where you are in life, acknowledging whatever war you're fighting against. That is the biggest first step. For example, here we are talking about being lonely even in a crowd. The first step would be to admit that, yes, I do feel lonely. Because quite often we brush aside these feelings. We treat them as if they don't matter. Whenever you feel like you are alone in a crowd, whenever you feel like you are not seen, whenever you feel like you're not involved in things, you tend to think or tell yourself that it doesn't really matter as long as I am happy. Is that not the statement that you usually pass around? As long as you're happy, as long as you're happy. When in earnest, you're not even happy. So the first step would be to admit that it is true. I am lonely. I might be among a lot of friends. I might be among colleagues at work. I might be with family members. I might not even be living alone. I might be living with other people. But yet at the same time, I still feel very lonely. Acknowledge that. Tell yourself that. You need to admit it. It's not a sign of weakness. You're not being dramatic when you're telling yourself that you feel lonely. You're just being honest with yourself. Because this is the thing. It's very difficult for us to be able to address what we cannot acknowledge. If we're going to address it, first, we have to be able to point it out. We have to be able to pick it out. What is the problem? The problem is I feel lonely. So how can we deal with that? Now we start to seek steps in how to deal with that. But first, having acknowledged that we feel lonely. So the more lonely you feel, and the more you entertain that form of loneliness without seeking help, you realize it starts to act like a strong rope around you that drags you back. It makes you a withdrawn human being. You start not to involve yourself anymore. But healing is asking you to reach out. Healing is asking you to open up. Now, you're not doing this to everyone. You're not opening up to everyone. You're not reaching out to everyone. But find a safe space. Find one person that you can open up to. Find a friend that you feel comfortable opening up to. Find a sibling maybe. Find someone who is willing to listen to you. And you don't have to pour everything out at the same time. If you don't feel like it, but you know it's something that is necessary for your healing, maybe start small. Maybe start by sending just one message. Hello, hi. I thought I'd just say hello. or maybe just a call. Hello, hi. I thought we could have a conversation if you have the time. And maybe it could be 1 minute, 2 minutes. Eventually, bit by bit, you'll find yourself being able to open up more. Bit by bit, you will be able to find yourself creating better connections. You will find yourself not feeling as lonely as you felt before. It is a process, and we need to admit that this is not something that will happen overnight. It will take a while. It will take time, but it will be better if you put in the effort to want to correct the problem of your loneliness. Sometimes it could just be a simple conversation. But I remember when I used to be in such a phase, there was a time when I was extremely lonely. Now, the loneliness was extreme because I not only felt lonely amongst other people, I also lived alone, you see, and I started distancing myself from people. You see, now, this is how I started to get back to myself. Bit by bit, I started to talk to strangers. Not every time, not randomly, but once in a while, I would pick someone out and I would start simple. I would start talking about ordinary stories, everyday stories. If I realize that they might have an ear to listen, because you can tell when you're talking to someone that they are willing to listen and some are just busy getting by, so they pretend to listen but are not. If I would realize some connection in the stranger, then I would share maybe a sentence. I would share maybe a short 2-minute conversation. But those simple conversations help me to start building connections again. And bit by bit, I started to feel involved. I started to beat over the loneliness. So I want you to be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, mwana wa baba. If you really feel like you're lonely, even when you are among other people, but you mostly feel lonely most of these times, take time to sit down with yourself, because maybe what could be happening with you is not just loneliness because you're disconnected from other people. It could be maybe also a disconnection from your own self. Maybe you're not taking time to process your own thoughts. Maybe you're distant from your own thoughts. Maybe you're not peaceful inside. Maybe you don't even understand your own feelings. Maybe your feelings are so mixed up that you don't understand how you feel as a human being. So you see, when you're uncomfortable with yourself, you start to feel lost. You start to feel too lonely, and it's difficult for you to even connect with other people. So as I wrap up this edition of Tsamba kuMwana Wangu, Mwana wa Baba, I want you to understand and I want you to know that even if you feel lonely, you are not alone. It might feel that way. It might feel like you're lonely, but you are not alone. Don't stay hidden. Don't shut yourself away from the world. Take one small step towards reconnecting again, because healing will not happen to you if you're isolated. Healing will not happen to you if you hide yourself. Healing will happen in safe, honest connections. This has been this week's edition of Tsamba kuMwana Wangu, as we continue to fight this war against the war. We are not just surviving, we are learning how to belong again. Haiko nautika, hakuna chinotikisa, zvinotikisa zvese zvinototikao.